Hello and welcome from World Architecture Festival and inside World Festival of Interiors 2021. Or I should say 2020 and 2021, because this is kind of a double year for the reasons that we all understand. I'm speaking to you from a rather cold, wet and windy London. We've been in the studio for 4 days listening to an extraordinary collection of presentations and judging sessions which culminated in today's Finals Friday, with all our category winners competing against each other for our Best in Show prizes. I'd like to thank all the people who've entered the awards over the past 2 years. We've had 1,400 entries. We've had 600 presentations online to international judging panels, which has been an extraordinary logistics achievement when you think about the problems of dealing with the different time zones from all the shortlisted presentations and the time zones of the juries. So I repeat my thanks to all of you. It's been extraordinary. But of course, the festival couldn't happen without its supporters. I'd like in particular to thank Grower, our founder partner, who've been with us since 2008, and other long-term partners, much valued, who've joined us again this year, ABB and Miele. We've got a roundup of really all the awards that have already been announced, but it's a recap of those. And at the end of this presentation, we'll be announcing the main winners of 2021. We're going to kick off with the special prizes. They are varied, some are supported. And let's go first to the Lisbon Prize, supported by Crayon, to whom many thanks. And this is for a building we considered an exemplary piece of architecture in the city of Lisbon, where we should have been this week, but we're very much hoping to be in December 2022. And the winner of the Lisbon Prize is the United Lisbon International School by Capina Lopes Consulting for the Elegant Group. This is a retrofit of a 1950s industrial building, formerly the Louis Pasteur Institute. And I think they've done a marvelous job. The proof of the pudding is that they already have hundreds of international students enrolled, so congratulations to them. Next, the Water Research Prize, which was initiated by Grower 4 years ago. Always a fascinating one, this because it's not for completed work. It's for a proposition about how we could help with a €10,000 contribution, a research idea which is in the broad field of water. And the winners this year are a team from Iran, who've worked on what they call the aquasorbent facade, a bioarchitectural solution to water collection, which is based, not least, on flora fauna, in this case, the extraordinary surface of a sort of desert beetle, which manages to collect water, and which these architects have taken as a kind of inspiration for how you might treat the surface of a building. Next, the small project of the year, and this, as you probably know, is taken from all our shortlisted award entries, whatever their category. So here was the shortlist for this year's award. Temporary housing in Mexico City by Revolution, a very timely project. And there it is. Best use of natural light. And that this year goes to Heatherwick Studio for the Maggie's Leeds Centre in Leeds in the United Kingdom. That's for the treatment and respite of people suffering from cancer. This supported by Velux, the great proselytizers, and quite right too, for the benefits of natural light, not just for health, but pretty much for everything. Then best use of colour. And a wonderful project selected by our jury, the Majara Residency, another Iranian project, ZAV Architects, and there it is in all its glory. And what a delightful reminder of the power of colour to enhance. The best use of certified timber is supported by PEFC, and in a world of increasing interest in not just sustainability, but the certification that products are sustainable, this is a wonderful example of what we're talking about. This is the Sky Innovation Hub in Rotorua, New Zealand, RTA Studio and Irving Smith Architects, and really an intriguing structural system and a delightful piece of architecture. The Engineering Prize, and some great supporters. They always enter the WAF Awards, and the winner of this is Nikon Seke from Tokyo for this project, part of the Tokyo Olympics, the Ariake Gymnastics Center, and really extraordinary use of timber. We move next to Associate Awards, the Architectural Photography Awards, invented and founded and still run by the indefatigable Lynn Bryant. And here were some of the finalists, actually, in the various categories for the awards. And here are the winners this year. First, the mobile category winner. This is in Los Angeles at the Getty Museum. And it's Chen Guanhong is the photographer. Lovely work.
Okay.
The portfolio category winner, this is for a series of images, is Ni Adai with this portfolio of Jiaxing train station in Shanghai, China, the architect's MAD. Then the overall winner in the view of the professional judges was this extraordinary image by Liu Xinghao with a photograph of holidays during the COVID-19 pandemic, and the buildings in the background are by Safdie Architects. This is in China rather than in Singapore, and an almost surreal image, and really extraordinary skill to capture that moment. And here's the overall winner as voted on by WAF, registered WAF delegates who've taken part in an online survey. And this image is by Tan Xiao. It's the Times Pavilion in Guangzhou. The architects were Sangu Design. Next, another associated prize. We're delighted to be associated with MAKE and the Sir John Soane Museum. And with our great supporters, Gleeds, the Architecture Drawing Prize has been going 5 years this year. And here are this year's winners. The Digital and Lockdown Prize winner, it's the same image, this extraordinary and impressive piece of digital design, Sites of Flux by Zachary Higson, which incorporates a project and a project model with the circumstances of the cramped room in which all the work on both the architectural project and this image were created during lockdown. In the hybrid category of the Architecture Drawing Prize, we've got two winners. Hybrids are where there's use of digital techniques but also hand-drawn. And the first winner is Boji Hu, who's an architect at Rochester Harbour, for this project called Unhomeliness, accompanied by a series of other images which you see in sort of TV screen dimensions here. And the other joint hybrid winner, flood responsive landscape performance. How could you deal with flood conditions below ground if, let's hope it never happens, in London, by Daphne Philippa. And then finally, the hand-drawn winner, a rather wonderful winner this year, something quite different to what we've had before. This is a kind of graphic comic book, and it's called Reconfiguring Addis Abeba's Narrative, Storytelling for Architecture by Antonio Pauletti. And this shows the life, the people, the activities, the joy of urban life in that city. We now move on to the WAF Awards 2021. The WAF Awards are chosen by the WAF team in London, led by myself and Jeremy Melvin, the WAF curator. Since 2017, we've been looking for examples of exemplary thinking about the future, where architects are addressing key issues facing not architecture especially, but actually facing the planet, facing society, facing all of us, and seeing how they're dealing with it, or with them, in architectural terms. And the first one is the advance of digital technology and its implications. The winner are Schneider and Schumacher for this tower in Shenzhen. Second subject, aging, and this is a housing project for seniors incorporating walking routes and nature and medical treatments, and it's by Sunlei and Sunlei Fang Wei, and it's in Nanning, China. Cultural identity, a Gulf project, the Zayed National Museum in Abu Dhabi, by Foster and Partners for the Department of Culture and Tourism there. And this is to commemorate the life and achievement of the late Sheikh and all he did for the UAE. Social equity, an intriguing project in Canada, Two Row Architects and KPMB Architects. And this was a sort of improved housing proposition for the Fort Seven First Nation, which is one of the Canadian native communities that's been under great pressure for all sorts of reasons recently, and this is an attempt to show some sort of way forward, investment in the future, and giving people self-confidence to enjoy their own domestic environments. Health, this project is in Shanghai. This is by Hen Shenping Studio and CUMT, and this was a response to the pandemic and how you might be able to have a portable hospital which would help in the prevention of the spread. Very timely, obviously. Construction technology, this is a project by Tsu Fujimoto, a great supporter of World Architecture Festival. And this is a museum for architecture and also a residential project in the Philippines, where we've noticed a great deal of very creative activity over the last couple of years, typified by the winner of the next category, which is food. And this is actually about the protection and nurture of certain forms of fish and crab by Carlo Karma Consultancy on this Philippines island. Working at a very different scale and a different continent, the reuse category has been won by Studio V Architecture. Previous winners at WAF, obviously on top form. This is for Silo City in Buffalo, New York, an exemplary retrofit project. Also in New York, but this time in New York City, our Ethics and Values winner is at We the Planet campus off the island of Manhattan by 3 Deluxe. And this was chosen because it's trying to make a proposition about what the appropriate balance is between nature and man-made. And it's a sort of worked experiment, which then includes all sorts of other things to visit and exhibition spaces in this man-made floating structure. Still on a city theme, smart cities. Well, BIG Architecture have won this category with the Toyota Woven City project in Japan, and this is to do partly with the use of hydrogen for cars, but it's also about the implications of the possibilities of kind of artificial driving, you know, completely new automotive environment where it's not left to individual skills. But on the other hand, how close can we get to on demand with less traffic for more people? And always important, climate, energy and carbon, of course. And this is a project which exploits timber as a structural material. This is an office building next to rail tracks in London, the Paradise Project by Field and Clegg Bradley Studios, who've been promoting ideas about zero carbon for many years now. This project we thought was a worthy winner. Now, the WAF 2021 overall winner was also the winner of the water category, and it's also it's in the Philippines, WTA Architecture and Design Studio, and this is Horizon Manila, and this is the creation of a new piece of land close to the central business district, just off the coast, in which water plays a key role in terms of transport, in terms of providing a kind of link. There are canals here. There's a sort of river or a canal that runs right through the middle of this complex, which is intended to show how a dense development can be combined with landscape and social amenity. Well, we're now moving on to some of our biggest awards, well, in fact, all of our biggest awards, the first of which is the Future Project of the Year. Here's the super jury for this: Ankur Choksi, Mariana Simas, and Sir Peter Cook, ably chaired by Jeremy Melvin. And the Future Project of the Year shortlist looked like this. The winner of the Culture category, number 2 grinding wheel factory in Zhengzhou, China by CCDI Group Shenzhen. The Master Planning winner, again in China, in Zhengzhou, Nantou Old Town Renovation Project by Wancheng Urban Design Research and Value Design and Consultants. The Education winner, the Music Campus Myanmar, wonderful project, Kiangtung in Myanmar by MLKK Studio. The Civic winner was the Dar Arab Al Saneh, a revitalization of rural communities project in Giza, Egypt by Verform. Competition entries. You never know with the competition entries when we judge them whether they won a competition or whether they didn't win a competition, but the question is whether it's a great design. We thought this was. This is in Preston, UK, the Jannat Masjid by Design & More International. The house winner, Shargoli Villa, Damavand, another Iranian project by FMZD. And the Future Project Experimental winner was Sawa, Rotterdam, by May Architects and Planners, with this delightful kind of, you know, infestation's the wrong word, but you know what I mean, of nature coming into the building. The Future Project Residential winner, the Maison d'Italie in Paris, France, Studio Razavi. And the Infrastructure winner, Replant, Inclusive Waste to Energy Plant and Recycling Park Concept. So geographically, something like this could be done anywhere. Leisure-led development, the Alto Douro Winery and Hotel, Portuguese Connection, Atelier Sergio Rebelo. But to announce the Future Project, the Future Project Culture winner is Silo City by Studio V Architecture. We've seen that one already. And the Future Project Commercial Mixed Use winner is in the UK, in Sunderland, High Street, in North East England, by Faulkner Brown's architects. The civic winner, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the real way of describing this place, but anyway, it's in Canada. It's an aquatic community centre by HCMA. And the future project office winner, Atlassian headquarters by Shop Architects and BVN Architecture with SE's Eckersley O'Callaghan engineers. Future project health winner, Haxton Saving Main Street in Haxton. This is by HDR Architects, and the point about this, it was as much about revitalising the middle of a small town as it was about providing the medical facility. The future project of the year is going to be announced by a great pal of world architecture, Katrine Forster from ABB. Katrine, over to you.
Thank you very much, Paul. I prepared an envelope. All right. So I would like to read out what the judges say. This project started with the ruins of the world's greatest collection of grain elevators, and through wonderfully seductive imagery envisages a future for them, the city of Buffalo, and of post-industrial cities. The winner is Silo City by Studio V Architecture from New York. Congratulations.
We're moving on to Landscape of the Year. And the Landscape Super Jury, thanks to them, Zaz Brezar, Lily Jenks, Todd Longstaff Gowan. And here is the short list. So some of these are urban context, and they'll be followed by some which are more related to a natural context. So Kazan's Prime Waterfront in Kazan, Russia, by Turenscape. Railway Impression SD Atelier Design and Planning in Taichung City, Taiwan. The Al Home Master Plan in Abu Dhabi by the Department of Culture and Tourism. Fascinating project. The Al Fay Park, Abu Dhabi, SLA Architects. How nice to see greenery in that environment. The Niederhafen River Promenade in Hamburg, Zaha Hadid Architects. And the last of the urban context ones, the Zuhui Runway Park in Shanghai by Sasaki. And now I think four of sort of more of a nature context. Concrete riverbank to riverfront park, we're in Sichuan, Suining, China, by Ecoland Planning and Design, Sichuan Provincial Architecture Design and Research Institute. The deep form of design nature. Well, obviously there is an urban context, but it's very much a natural one. It's made it natural. The Sanya Mangrove Park in Kazan, Russia, by Turenscape. Must be some good clients in Kazan. Bacha E. Roig, great favourites of WAF, always wonderful work. The Path of the Forest in this Roques Blancas Park Cemetery in Barcelona, their hometown. And Copa Central Park, Copa Slovenia, by Enota. The Landscape of the Year, the winner. Well, the judges said this project is a thoughtful and intelligent response which takes into consideration pressing contemporary social and environmental issues. It is moreover a delightful and biodiverse oasis in a dense desert city. And the winner and congratulations to them, are SLA architects for the Alfay Park. And here are some other images of the project. As we were saying, we've seen a number of green projects and landscape buildings in the UAE, the Gulf, and the Middle East this year. So congratulations to SLA. And we're now moving on to the World Festival of Interiors and the Interior of the Year. Here's the super jury, chaired as ever by Nigel Coates, creative director of Inside, and still doing wonderful work as a designer in his own right. Yale Reisner, Oliver Solway, Manuel Gautron, and Johnny Chu, and many thanks for them, as with all our super juries for giving us their time. I think they had quite a delightful day, actually. Here's the shortlist. So, the Small Workplace winner, Smart Design Studio, for this project in New South Wales, for themselves. The Health and Fitness winner, the Gandal wing of a facility in Melbourne, by Bates Smart, also frequent entrants to these awards. The retail winner, the Jolor store in Shanghai, by Atelier Tau Plus C. Housing winner, the Home for a Brand New Start. What a wonderful optimistic title, by Pone Architecture. And the hotels winner, the Capsule Hostel and Bookstore in Qinglongwu in Hangzhou, China, again by Atelier Tau Plus C. The Large Workplace Award, this is in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It's the YTL headquarters by Ministry of Design. And the Public Buildings winner, the Museum of Copenhagen by JAC Studios. Single Dwelling, Casa Palerm in Mallorca by OLAB. Congratulations. Bars and Restaurants, Seven Dials Market in my hometown, London by Stiff and Trevelyan. I haven't visited it yet, but I think I'll probably go there tomorrow night. Temporary and meanwhile uses, the winner is the Reply Project in New York by BVN. And the education winner, the Schoolhouse, Mountain View, California by Rat Studio. The interior winner of the year, and this is supported by Mila. Many thanks to them for the support this year, and indeed their ongoing support over many years. This is what the judges had to say. A sensitive and inventive remodelling of a modest traditional building in a remote setting. And what a surprise when you go inside. A cross between a beehive, a climbing frame and a pagoda, this building is exceptionally skillful and entertaining. A beautiful hybrid idea executed with poetry, sophistication and warmth. And the winner is the Capsule Hostel and Bookstore in Hangzhou, China by Atelier Tau and C. And here are some other images of this really delightful project, which also featured, I may say, in the overall Building of the Year awards. So this is part community building, part library, and part hostel for, I think, originally intended for students, but possibly for other visitors too, with bookshelves lining the whole. Congratulations to them. So now finally on to the World Building of the Year, in a sense the climax of our year, supported of course by Grower, our founder partner. Here was the super jury that I had the pleasure of chairing today. A very nice day, really good people. Abdelkader Damani from Frac Centre, associated with the Orléans Biennale. Christina Salem from Studio Salem. Kim Herforth Nielsen, founder of 3XN, co-founder and principal. And Nuno Gonçalves from Tara, a lovely Portuguese connection who's an associate partner at Meccano. And we had 18 wonderful buildings to look at, and we had to remind ourselves when we were making a final decision that it wasn't a question of the 17 of them were in any sense losers. These are all winners of their category, but of course we did have to choose one that we thought was just a bit more outstanding than the others. So here we go with the shortlist. Higher education and research. We saw this earlier in relation to the Timber Prize, the Innovation Hub in Rotorua, RTA and Irving Smith. The sport winner, the Ken Rosewall Arena redevelopment in Sydney by Cox Architecture. This amazing translucent roof placed with great ingenuity over an existing a concrete bowl. A glorious project. This is really a cultural centre. It's an art centre and a performing arts centre with two architects, Durbat Block Jaggers and John Wardle Architects, working in what turned out to be a very harmonious relationship and a very creative result. The housing winner, again in Australia, this time in Melbourne, and John Wardle working on their own, tripartite building with a conserved brick base, then unashamedly contemporary aesthetic with what goes above, partly taking its cue from the geometry of grain silos, which were a feature of this area. The school winner, the Fortitude Valley State Secondary College in Brisbane by Cox Architecture and Thompson Adset. Well, this set a kind of new sort of standard for this area, because it's very unusual to have a sort of dense urban type structure in a suburban context. It set challenges. It was something that the Education Authority promoted. There was positive input from the head teacher, the principal, and the result we felt was a great success. The religion winner, really amazing project by Tezuka Architects. This image doesn't quite, it's actually very difficult to get a single image that conveys just how special this is. And there's a facade with cut out pieces, hand cut by the architect who works on this project for what must have seemed like an eternity, to get an extraordinary chapel filled with natural light. And really not quite like anything I think we'd seen before. The new and old winner, we've seen this already, the Capsule Hostel, fabulous project, and making use on a minimal site of 230 square metres of a fading existing structure to produce something very special. The shopping winner, Shanghai Urban Architecture and Design. Well, they won this for a project which, instead of conventional demolition, which was certainly on the cards, they essentially said, well, we've got to keep all the protected buildings on the site, but actually what we want to do is to do analysis of all the other buildings on this site and find out, even if they're not protected by law, what their particular characteristics and virtues are, and see what we can do with them. So this is essentially a sort of conservation project which takes the retail component as the mainspring for a delightful piece of urbanism. The completed buildings, house and villa, there are two awards in this thing. One is for things that are in an urban or suburban context. This is the Sky House in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, by MIA Design Studio. And the point about this house was to allow the occupier to avoid any view whatsoever of what looked to be a pretty hideous agglomeration cluster of concrete towers very nearby. So this is a small site next to a very big sort of rather anonymous, sort of worse sort of modernism, you might say. And the light well and the planting coming out of the windows and holes in the walls was a real pleasure to see. The hotel and leisure winner, a very, very sophisticated project by Studio Lotus. Again, like many of the projects we've seen today, making use of an existing facility. This is next to a dam. There've been an irrigation centre. There'll be buildings of different uses, and the latest of which is a kind of delightful hotel with tent roofs and a series of private and social spaces, which made us all start reaching for our passports. Completed buildings, production, energy and recycling. Well, this does all of that in spades. The Copenhagen projects in Copenhagen, a waste to energy plant. The office winner, Older Fleet, also in Australia. Good showing from Australia this year by Grimshaw, where the tower at the back of this image is connected to 3 historic buildings, late 19th century buildings, which form the frontage to Collins Street, for those of you who know Melbourne. And therefore the design challenge was both to relate these to each other, creating a through route, a sort of lane, a cut through the urban block, and providing a contemporary workspace above. A really ambitious project. The health winner, a mixed team here, Link Architecture, 3XN, Nicky and Partners and Christine Jensen, Stegnes Due. And I should say that Kim Nielsen from 3XN, of course, stepped out of the virtual room when this was discussed by the judges and took no part in proceedings, and nor did he present it, just to make that clear. This is a piece of kind of Scandinavian hospital design which took a plan form of a kind of in and out plan with a central spine, which, without knowing it, proved itself to be admirably capable of coping with COVID hospital services at the start of the pandemic, and is one of those sort of pieces of timeless health design you wish, well, all hospitals should have the spirit of this in them. The mixed use winner, the Post building in London by Alford Hall, Monaghan Morris. One of 2 or 3 redundant post office buildings, extraordinary volumes in what had been an industrial storehouse, which had no elevators in it because that wasn't how they moved the mail about. In fact, they moved it to subterranean tunnels and rail network, which is still there. And this has been converted for retail at ground level, workspace, but then social affordable housing. We don't have time to go into the details here, but it's a very rare example of providing social housing in a very high value area in central London. The civic and community winner, a community building, which is a library, which is the more important element, library or the community. It's actually both. Kirkkonummi Library, which improves on an existing facility in an exemplary way by JKMM Architects. And then the display winner, pretty up to date. This is the Sustainability Pavilion at the Dubai Expo 2020, which of course opened a year late. It's on now in Dubai. Architects Grimshaw, who've managed to produce a net zero building. It powers itself, it provides its own water, it generates everything it harvests, and it's not a pavilion in the sense, well, let's throw it away when the expo's over. This is a permanent building which will be the hub of a science and innovation district in Dubai. Here's the other house and villa. Judge is very taken with this, Coopworth in Bruny Island, Tasmania. And this is, in a sense, it's a modest house for a couple who are farmers. And although they're not in the image, this is right in the middle of where the sheep graze. And the sheep are quite interested in that grazing. The sheep come and live in the house. Well, not live in the house, they'd like to if they could. So part of the program is to make sure that man and beast could enjoy each other's company without absolutely close proximity, at least in a domestic environment. And then the transport winner, the Moynihan Train Hall, New York, USA, by Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. And some of our older attendees will recall that in the early 1960s, in a really disgraceful piece of anti-urbanism, that Penn Station in New York City was demolished to make way for nothing hugely memorable. And in a sense, this is a sort of repair job, because this building is directly opposite on 8th Avenue, opposite the old Penn Central demolished building. But the tracks that went into Penn Central also ran under this building, also by McKim, Mead and White, originally I think 1914. And this building, its original use, was for mail, rather like the Post building in London. So you had the entire mail of the northeast of the United States passing through this building. So what's happened with this project, which has taken 25 years to achieve, is the reconnection of McKim, Mead and White to both the Amtrak, the railroad and the subway system at this location. So this is a kind of marvellous kind of apology for what happened in the past, I suppose, but it's the most constructive sort of apology that you could imagine. So we come to which of these 18 projects is the World Building of the Year winner. And I'm going to ask Carl Lennon, representing Grower this evening, to come and join me on our stage in our studio here. Carl, hi, very good you could make this. So just to prove that we are live here and not completely virtual. What the judges said about the winner was that it addresses the role of architecture in the new world of net zero and recycling. And it treats infrastructure projects in a way which makes people say, yes, in my backyard, rather than no. It encourages designers to think beyond the brief, to argue for ideas, and to ride the tides of both politics and economics in the pursuit not just of a great architectural idea, but in pursuit of the socially beneficial. And incidentally, it reminds us that buildings can be fun. Carl, tell us who the winner is.
Well, first off, a pleasure to be here today, and congratulations to everybody in hosting a fabulous event. And congratulations to the winner, which is Copenhill, the Waste to Energy project by BIG.
Many congratulations to BIG. This project, of course, has been published. And as I said earlier, of course, we've got 2 years worth of projects here. I think this project was actually finished at the end of 2019. As you can see, the ski slope on top of this waste to energy plant is its most Instagrammable feature. But the presentation and the story that we heard, this is much more than, as it were, a kind of a sort of leisure one-liner. Not at all. The original brief was simply to skin an existing facility. And the dilemma and the fear of the client was that it would take years and years and years to create a waste to energy plant, because they're so unpopular usually with local communities for all sorts of reasons, some of them quite understandable. So when BIG looked at this, they started thinking about, well, what is it that we could do which would involve more than skinning a kind of new facility? And actually, when you look at that and you start thinking about the structure you're going to have to put in place to support all this, if you're doing that, well, what else might that support? And if you were going to put a roof on it, what might it be that you might be able to do with a roof? And of course, since it snows in Denmark, the idea emerged of a kind of ski slope thing in this context, in an area which has considerable leisure uses already, including yachting and dinghies and other water sports. So the client realized that a project which added a leisure element and could be an attraction in its own right, rather than simply performing its primary function of turning, millions of tons of waste into something useful, they realized that actually they were going to save an awful lot of money in lawyers' fees, because probably instead of having to fight to get this facility built, potentially it would actually become an attraction. They would get planning permission more quickly, and that changed the financial dynamics of the project. And eventually it wasn't quite as simple as that, because there were political arguments, an interesting political argument about, does this represent the best and final state of a net zero world? Well, it doesn't, in the sense that we shouldn't be producing all that rubbish and waste in the first place. But on the other hand, there clearly will be a period of transition when we are still going to be producing waste. What are we going to do with it? We should be doing something worthwhile. And I guess the conversation we had in the jury was partly to do with getting architects to think about and get engaged with the sorts of buildings that are going to emerge as a result of a sort of second or third industrial revolution, a revolution without fossil fuel, a revolution without waste, a revolution based on a planetary requirement, a planetary incentive, rather than the first industrial revolution with its dependence on heat. So we felt very comfortable about this, because although there were other projects which we looked at, I'll name the ones that very much caught the judge's eye for conversation. The Phoenix Central Park in Sydney, by that pair of architects working together. The Capsule Hotel, which won the Interiors Prize. The Finnish Library, also with a big community use. These were all wonderful projects, and one or two others. But in the end, we felt that the message from this building is not to encourage students to start putting ski slopes on roofs. The real encouragement is to clients and planners and governments, and to the architectural profession itself, to ensure that design engagement with these sorts of projects makes the most of potential opportunities which are only just starting to emerge. And I think we feel confident that this can and will happen, because so many of the award winners across the categories actually, and across the sections, have shown an interest in the creative reuse of the new, exploiting the past in a good way rather than demolishing it, and really looking forward in as positive a way as possible to the challenges, which will be considerable, of course, in designing, in specifying, in supervising, but above all, I think, in arguing for the right things in the future to come. Well, I think I mentioned earlier this week that I felt a sort of spirit, and I always do, feel a spirit of relentless optimism in seeing all this wonderful work presented to us and all the contributions of our conference speakers over the last 4 days. And I suppose in the end, WAF is both a place where, in Jeremy Melvin's words, it's possible to have a big conversation about the issues that are affecting architecture, but it's also, of course, possible to reward and to celebrate exemplary achievement. That's about it from me. We look forward to seeing you in Lisbon next year, but just before we go, there's one other prize winner, and I mentioned that sort of Portuguese connection earlier, so I'd like to leave you with the winner of the Visualization Prize, Atelier Sergio Rebelo, for their wonderful project, the Alto Douro Winery and Hotel.